Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we are tackling a word that I think carries a lot of baggage.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those words we all think we know, but our definition is probably 90% Hollywood and, 10% reality. The topic is autonomy.
Hmm.
And I have to admit, when this topic came up, my brain immediately went to a very specific place.
Oh, I can guess where you went. The lone wolf.
Totally. I'm picturing the maverick leather jacket riding a motorcycle away from an explosion without looking back,
Right.
that character who's like, I don't need anyone, I'm going rogue. It feels a little like teenage rebellion.
It does. That's such a common association, slamming the door on your parents.
Right.
We tend to mix up autonomy with like pure independence or even isolation.
Cutting cords.
Exactly. But what's so fascinating about the material we're looking at today is that it just flips that script completely. If you walk away with one thing from this deep dive, it's that true autonomy isn't about distance at all. It's about alignment.
Alignment. Okay, that sounds a lot less like a motorcycle chase.
A little bit.
So let's start with the definition that really changed my whole perspective on this. The research defines autonomy as the capacity to choose without self-betrayal.
That phrase is heavy, isn't it? Without self-betrayal. It just changes the entire temperature of the conversation.
It really does.
It stops being about whether you do things alone or with help, and it starts being about whether you are actually home when you make a decision. Are you present, or have you, abandoned yourself to please someone else?
Right. And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to dismantle this myth that being autonomous means being a hermit or a jerk, and instead understand it as something the text calls self-directed interdependence.
Which, I'll admit, sounds like a bit of a contradiction at first.
Yeah, a bit of a corporate buzzword paradox. Self-directed implies me, and interdependence implies us.
But that's the sweet spot. It's actually the key to healthy relationships. The psychology we're looking at today really explores how we make choices and why autonomy is, in fact, a requirement for connection, not a barrier to it.
Okay, so let's get right into the myths. Because I think a lot of us have this subconscious idea that if I'm truly autonomous, I shouldn't need help, I'll do it myself. Feels like the battle cry.
Right, but the text is so explicit here. Autonomy is not isolation,
Mm.
and it's not defiance.
Ooh, that's a good distinction.
I think it's critical. Defiance is just a reaction. You're pushing against something. If I tell you to go left and you go right just to prove you can,
Yeah.
well, you aren't actually autonomous.
You're just being controlled by me in reverse.
Exactly. You're still tethered to the command. True autonomy acts from something, not against it. There's a great line in the research. An autonomous system can be influenced without being overridden.
That's a tricky balance, though, isn't it? How do you actually know the difference in real life?
Well, think about it this way. If you're totally rigid, if you build a wall so no one can influence you, that's not autonomy. That's just defensiveness.
Fragile.
It's fragility. True autonomy means you're solid enough in your own values that you can actually hear someone else's perspective, let it in, weigh it, and then choose. You don't have to shut the world out to keep your own shape.
So it's like being porous, but with a really good filter?
Yes, a membrane, not a fortress.
That brings us back to that term I was making fun of, self-directed interdependence. Let's unpack that, because we are social creatures. We're not islands.
Precisely. The core idea is that you can rely on others without surrendering your agency. You can belong to a group without disappearing into it.
Oh, that's the struggle, isn't it? So many people feel they have to choose. Either I'm alone, or I connect with this group, this partner, whatever, and I just kind of lose myself.
The chameleon effect.
Mm-hmm.
You walk into a meeting and suddenly your opinions just shift a little bit to match the room.
Nodding at things you don't even agree with.
Right, and that is disappearing in connection. You're prioritizing the bond over the self. Autonomy is the ability to stay visible to yourself even when you're deeply connected.
Okay, but here's the million-dollar question. How do we actually do that? Because it sounds great on paper, but when your boss is pressuring you or your family is expecting something, the path of least resistance is usually just to cave.
It is so hard, and this is where we have to look at the mechanics of it. It's not just a philosophy. It's a biological state, and it starts with a prerequisite we almost always overlook. It's not about willpower. It's about safety.
Autonomy develops through safety. That line really stood out to me. We usually think of autonomy as being brave, storming the castle. But you can't be autonomous if you don't feel safe.
That's right. I mean, think about the nervous system. When you feel safe, your system settles down.
Mm.
You're in that rest and digest state, and you can actually listen to yourself. You can access what you really think and feel.
Okay.
But, and this is so important, when safety is missing, your behavior shifts. It stops being about choice, and it starts being about survival.
So when I'm in that stressful meeting and I just agree to some impossible deadline, that's not me being a team player. That's me just surviving the moment.
Exactly. The research lists these specific survival modes that replace autonomy: compliance, avoidance, or control.
Wait, hold on. Compliance is the survival mode. I just thought that was, being polite.
It is if it's based on fear. If you're complying to keep the peace because conflict feels dangerous to your system, that's not choice. That's a fawn response.
Fawning. Wow, that hits hard.
Then there's avoidance, just hiding from the decision altogether. And control, trying to micromanage everything to manage your own anxiety. None of those are autonomous choices. They're stress responses.
That's a huge reality check. So if I'm just saying yes to everything because I'm afraid of what happens if I say no, I've basically lost my free will in that moment.
You've lost that capacity to choose without self-betrayal. The cost of choosing just feels too high. Your brain is saying, it is not safe to be me right now.
Okay, so let's say we find some safety. We feel okay enough to listen. What are we listening to? Because listen to yourself is advice we hear all the time, but what does that actually mean?
This is the engine of autonomy. You need that internal feedback loop.
Yeah.
And the research gives us this really useful hierarchy of signals. It's not just intellectual.
Right, let's go through these. The first one is bodily cues, which I think we're all trained to ignore.
The body usually knows first. It's amazing.
What does a no feel like in the body?
It can be a tightness in your throat, a pit in your stomach, a sudden drop in energy. You know that feeling when someone asks for a favor, and before your brain even processes it, you just feel heavy?
Oh, yeah, the instant drain.
That is data. That's your body saying no, and a yes might feel like expansion or warmth. An autonomous person uses that as primary data.
Okay, next up is emotional responses, which, again, especially at work, we're taught to suppress. Emotions are irrational.
But they're highly efficient information packets about your needs and boundaries. Take resentment. We think of it as a bad emotion, but really resentment is often just the signal that a boundary has been crossed.
So if I'm feeling resentful, it's not that I'm just in a bad mood, it's my autonomy alarm going off.
Exactly. If you ignore it, you're discarding the signal. You're betraying yourself.
The next one is intuitive hesitation or clarity, that gut feeling.
Right, that sense of, I just know this isn't right, even if you can't explain why yet.
And then finally, cognitive understanding, the logic. But notice it's just one of 4 inputs here.
And this is where we get into trouble. We live in a world that idolizes logic. And the problem is when we let logic bully the other 3 signals. You say, well, logically, this is a great career move.
I should take this job.
I should. Even though your stomach hurts every time you think about it, you feel vaguely angry all the time, and your intuition is screaming, run. When logic overrides the rest, that is the definition of self-betrayal.
And when you ignore those signals, when you let the shoulds run the show, the notes make this incredible distinction. It says, without autonomy, people perform roles. With autonomy, people inhabit themselves.
Inhabit themselves. I had to stop reading for a second when I saw that. It's such a visual distinction.
It makes me think of an empty house versus a lived-in home.
Or an actor. The difference between someone frantically reading lines off a teleprompter and someone just speaking from their heart. When you perform a role, the good employee, the perfect parent, you are constantly scanning the outside world for the script.
What am I supposed to say here? What would a chill friend do?
It's performative. And it is exhausting. But when you inhabit yourself, you're speaking from the inside out. You aren't guessing the script. You are the script.
But here's the fear. I know people listening are thinking this because I'm thinking it. If I start inhabiting myself and honoring my needs, am I just going to turn into a selfish jerk?
The fear of selfishness. It's the #1 barrier. We are terrified that if we stop pleasing everyone, we become bad people.
Right. I mean, relationships require compromise, don't they? If everyone's just inhabiting themselves, doesn't it all just fall apart into chaos?
It's a valid fear, but the research makes a really clean distinction between autonomy and selfishness. And it's this. Selfishness ignores impact. Autonomy considers impact without erasing the self.
Okay, without erasing the self. What does that look like in a real argument with, say, a partner?
Okay, so the selfish person says, I want pizza. I don't care that you're allergic to cheese. We're getting pizza. They ignore the impact.
Got it. Total jerk move.
Right. But the person who lacks autonomy, the people pleaser, they say, oh, I really want pizza, but I know you don't, so I'll just have whatever you're having. And they erase themselves completely.
And then they sit there eating the salad, just simmering with resentment.
Exactly. The autonomous person says, okay, I see what you need and I see what I need. I'm considering how my choice affects you, but I'm not going to pretend I don't have a preference just to make you comfortable.
So you consider the impact, but you don't let it dictate your entire existence.
And here's the counterintuitive part. Autonomy is actually better for relationships than self-sacrifice.
Wow. My partner seems to love it when I just do what they want.
In the short term, maybe. But over time, resentment is poison. When you erase yourself, you eventually resent them for making you do it. The research lists these healthy indicators of autonomy, and it's basically a checklist for a healthy relationship.
Yeah, let's run through them. Number one, the ability to say yes freely.
Freely is the key word.
No.
If you feel like you can't say no, then your yes is counterfeit. It doesn't mean anything.
Wow, if I can't say no, my yes is a lie.
That's it.
Okay, number two, the ability to say no without guilt.
Oof, without guilt. That's the mastery level. Understanding that no is a complete sentence, not a moral failing.
Number three, the ability to change your mind.
This is a big one. We feel so locked in. I said I'd go 3 weeks ago, so I have to go. Autonomy says you're allowed to get new information, even if that new information is just, I'm tired, and make a new decision.
And the last one, the ability to act without constant justification.
Right. If you feel like you have to present a legal brief to explain why you don't want to go to dinner, that's a sign your autonomy is shaky. You're allowed to have a preference just because it's your preference.
There's another angle here on accountability that I found fascinating. The material argues that you can't have true accountability without autonomy.
This connects right back to integrity. Think about a workplace. If I force you to do a project and you only do it because you're afraid of me, you don't really feel responsible for the outcome, do you?
Not at all. If it goes wrong, I'm going to say, well, you made me do it.
Exactly. Don't look at me. You detach from the result.
But if I chose it freely...
If you choose it freely, if you say, I'm doing this because I see the value in it, then you own it. If it fails, you say, my choice. I'll fix it. You can't have honest responsibility without free choice.
So, in a way, giving people autonomy, your kids, your employees, is actually the only way to get them to take real ownership.
Yes. Autonomy guarantees ownership. Which I think leads us to the systemic impact. Let's zoom out from the individual to, say, workplaces and families.
The text contrasts two types of systems, where autonomy is suppressed and where it's supported. The suppressed system first. What does that look like?
That's a micromanaged system. A, because I said so culture. In those environments, people become reactive. They just wait for orders.
And it creates bottlenecks. If everyone's waiting for permission, nothing moves.
Exactly. But in a supported system where leaders or parents encourage autonomy, the research says people become creative and resilient.
Why resilience? What's the connection?
It comes down to intrinsic motivation. When you do something because you see the value in it, you have a completely different fuel source than when you're just doing it to avoid punishment.
It's the difference between running because you love it and running because a bear is chasing you.
Perfect analogy. The bear chase works for a sprint, but you burn out. Intrinsic motivation is sustainable.
And the material mentions stability, too. It says in autonomous systems, boundaries feel clean, consent feels clear.
That clarity creates such a stable environment. Think about how much anxiety comes from just guessing. Is my boss mad at me? Did my partner really mean they were fine?
In an autonomous culture, you don't have to guess.
Right. Because if they had a problem, they'd tell you.
Yeah.
If they said yes, they meant yes.
Yeah.
It removes so much static.
But, and this is a big but, I want to get to the cost, because we're making this sound a little too easy. The source drops a hard truth bomb near the end. It says, autonomy does not guarantee comfort, it guarantees ownership.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's so important to be realistic here. Autonomy is not about feeling good all the time. It's about being real.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you realize that your job violates your core values. Acting on that autonomy, quitting your job, speaking up, is going to be incredibly uncomfortable. It might be terrifying.
It doesn't magically fix the external problems?
No. But the trade-off is that the decision is yours. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. And that, right there, is the definition of dignity.
To be the author of your own life. The source calls autonomy the foundation of dignity.
It allows you to participate fully in your own life without coercion or fear or fragmentation.
Fragmentation is such a good word for it. When you're trying to please everyone, you feel scattered, like you're in pieces.
And autonomy gathers you back up. It makes you whole. And it's not a switch you flip. The source is clear. It matures over time.
Right, it's a practice.
It's a practice. It says it grows as self-abandonment decreases and self-fidelity increases. Self-fidelity, faithfulness to yourself.
That's a beautiful concept. We talk about being faithful to others, but rarely about self-fidelity.
And the irony is, the more faithful you are to yourself, the better you are at being faithful to others. Because you're showing up as a whole person, not a fragment.
So to recap, we've gone from thinking autonomy was about being a lone wolf to realizing it's actually about being a faithful steward of your own life so you can connect better with others.
Exactly. It's moving from, I don't need you, to I am me and I'm with you. A much more powerful place to live from.
And the source reminds us that this isn't a luxury. It's a requirement for healthy life.
It is. Without it, systems break. Whether that's a marriage, a company, or just your own psyche.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a thought to carry. We talked about how autonomy guarantees ownership, but not comfort.
Right. And so the question I'd invite you to sit with this week is this. If autonomy guarantees ownership, but not comfort, are there places in your life right now where you are choosing the comfort of compliance over the ownership of your own life?
That is a tough question to sit with. Requires some real honesty.
It does. But it's the first step toward that self-fidelity.
Thank you for diving in with us. We hope this sparked something for you. As always, take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye, everyone.